For centuries, whispers of giants have echoed across history. Were they myths, or were they rulers of a forgotten age? Tonight, we journey into the shadows of time, where broken statues, lost skeletons, and vanished artifacts tell a story too large to ignore. Imagine this. You are plowing your field on a quiet morning in Sardinia. The sun is climbing. Your oxen move slowly, and the soil parts beneath your blade. Suddenly, your plow jolts. Something hard, something ancient. And with that, the ground gives up a secret that has slept for nearly 3,000 years. What you've uncovered will rewrite history. The Italian island of Sardinia is a land wrapped in myth. Rugged hills rise from emerald seas, winds whistle through lonely plains, and stone towers known as nuraghi dot the landscape like silent watchmen of time. For centuries, Sardinia has been called many names: the land of shepherds, the land of warriors, and, most curiously, the land of giants. But this title isn't just poetic exaggeration. It comes from a trail of discoveries so strange, so colossal, that to this day, archaeologists struggle to explain them. The story begins in March of 1974. A local farmer was tilling his field near Cabras, on the island's western coast. He had done this countless times before, but that day, the earth resisted him. The plow caught on something solid. At first, he thought it was just a rock. But when he brushed the soil away, he realized it was no rock at all. It was the carved face of a statue, massive, weathered, but still staring back at him from the dirt with eerie precision. The farmer's chance discovery would trigger 8 years of excavation and research. Archaeologists swarmed the site, and what they unearthed would shock not only Sardinia, but the entire world of ancient history. Over 5,000 fragments were pulled from the soil. Broken limbs, shattered torsos, crushed heads. For years, experts painstakingly reassembled them, piece by piece, like an enormous jigsaw puzzle. And slowly, the fragments began to take shape. What emerged was not one statue, not 10, but an entire army of stone warriors. Boxers with heavy gloves, archers with drawn bows, warriors standing tall and proud, sculpted in poses of power. These weren't tiny idols you might place on an altar. They were giant statues standing up to 2.5 meters, tall over 8 feet. Some weighed nearly 400 kilograms. Even in their broken state, their presence was overwhelming. The faces, however, were the most haunting. Their eyes were carved as perfect, concentric circles, hollow and staring, giving them an otherworldly, almost alien appearance. It was as if they were looking not just at the people of their time, but at us, across thousands of years. These figures are now known as the Giants of Monte Prama, and with their discovery, Sardinia earned its chilling nickname, the Land of Giants. But who carved these giants, and why? Archaeologists believe they were created by the Nuragic civilization, a mysterious culture that thrived in Sardinia during the Bronze and Iron Ages, around 3,000 years ago. The Nuragic people built monumental stone towers called nuraghi, thousands of which still scatter the island. Yet, strangely, they left behind no written language. The Giants of Monte Prama may have been their message guardians, carved from stone to protect the tombs of Sardinia's elite. For these statues were not found standing freely in the open. They were discovered, shattered, buried near Iron Age graves. Imagine walking among them in their prime, an open-air necropolis, lined with towering stone soldiers, each one glaring down with unblinking circular eyes, standing watch over the dead. For the people of Sardinia, these giants weren't just statues, they were protectors, sentinels, symbols of power and eternity. But their watch didn't last forever. After only a few centuries, invaders swept across Sardinia. These conquerors smashed the giants to pieces, toppling the stone army until all that remained was rubble buried beneath the soil. For nearly 3 millennia, they slept, until a farmer's plow woke them. The giants of Monte Prama are not the only reason Sardinia carries its legendary title across the island. Archaeologists have identified enormous burial chambers, known locally as the tombs of the giants. These structures are massive. Some are 100 feet long, 8 feet tall. They were built with colossal slabs of stone, aligned like ribs rising from the earth, enclosing chambers big enough to rival cathedrals of the dead. Mainstream archaeology insists these tombs were communal graves, resting places for dozens of bodies at once. But local legends tell a different story. They whisper that these tombs were not for many small men, but for a few enormous ones. They were the beds of giants. And here's where the mystery deepens. For decades, Sardinian locals have claimed to see and even touch giant skeletons unearthed from these tombs and nearby caves. Skeletons not 6 or 7 feet tall, but 12, 13 feet in length. One of the most famous testimonies came from Luigi Muscas, a painter and sculptor. He recalled that, as a child in the early 1970s, he personally saw a skeleton measuring 13 feet uncovered inside a cave. He wasn't alone, other villagers reported the same. But then, something strange happened. Whenever these giant bones were reported, they would mysteriously vanish overnight. Authorities, researchers, or unknown collectors would arrive, remove the remains, and leave nothing behind but disturbed soil. It happened again and again, until the people of Sardinia began to suspect that someone, somewhere, was deliberately hiding the truth. Were these bones destroyed, confiscated, locked away in museum basements? No one knows, but the pattern was undeniable. Giant bones appeared, were witnessed, and then erased. The question then lingers, were Sardinia's legends born from pure imagination, or from faint memories of a time when truly gigantic beings walked the earth? On one hand, skeptics argue the giants of Monte Prama are simply oversized statues, artistic exaggerations created by an ambitious ancient culture. The tombs, they say, were communal graves, nothing more, and the so-called giant skeletons misidentified, exaggerated, or fabricated. But on the other hand, why do the stories keep returning? Why do locals, ordinary farmers, shepherds, artists, and why, each time, did those bones disappear before proper study could be made? Even today, whispers persist that secret collections of giant skeletons exist hidden away by governments, institutions, or private collectors who fear what their revelation might mean for our understanding of history. Adding another layer of intrigue are the statues' strange faces, those perfectly carved concentric circles for eyes. Some researchers believe they may symbolize a spiritual or symbolic vision. Others suggest they represent something far stranger, an alien influence. To believers in the ancient astronaut theory, The giants of Monte Prama aren't just works of art. They are echoes of a time when otherworldly beings walked among men, inspiring the creation of stone guardians modeled after themselves. Their size, their precision, their alien-like features all become pieces in a puzzle that stretches far beyond Sardinia, connecting to stories of giants from South America to the Middle East. Walk through Sardinia today, and you will still feel their presence. The Nuraghi stand tall, defying time. The tombs of the giants remain silent, their vast chambers echoing with unanswered questions. And in museums, the reconstructed stone warriors of Monte Prama stand once again, assembled from fragments, their circular eyes staring endlessly forward. Yet, the truth is incomplete. For every giant statue we can see, there are whispers of skeletons we cannot. For every tomb we measure, there are legends that defy those measurements. The land itself seems to guard its secret, half revealed, half concealed. A secret that tempts us with one chilling possibility, that giants were not just myth, they were memory. And so Sardinia keeps its secret. Shattered statues that hint at a forgotten race. Tombs so vast they defy explanation. Bones that appear and vanish like ghosts. Is this the land of giants, or simply the land of unsolved mysteries? One thing is certain. The giants of Monte Prama still stand, staring at us with their perfect, alien eyes, daring us to uncover the truth. What if some of history's greatest explorers weren't just mapping oceans, but uncovering secrets that defy explanation? What if the first Europeans to set foot in the New World found themselves face to face with giants? This isn't a tall tale, it's a documented account from none other than Ferdinand Magellan, the man who led the first circumnavigation of the globe, and what he and his crew encountered on the desolate coasts of South America has baffled historians for centuries. It was the year 1520. Magellan's fleet was battered and weary, their wooden ships creaking as they clawed through the icy waters of what we now call Patagonia. The winds howled, the shores were barren, and the men many starving, many sick had seen nothing but endless ocean for months. Then, one day, something stirred on the shoreline. The ship's log describes it with eerie clarity. One day, we suddenly saw a naked man of giant stature on the shore of the port, dancing, singing, and throwing dust upon his head. A man knows something larger, towering, broad-shouldered, his movements primal yet strangely ritualistic. He wasn't hostile, he was celebrating, welcoming. Magellan, ever the tactician, ordered one of his men ashore to mimic the giant's actions as a gesture of peace. Slowly, the two drew closer, and then the giant was escorted aboard the ship. The crew was stunned. This wasn't myth. This wasn't exaggeration. This was a giant in the flesh. So tall, the journals claim that Magellan's men only reached his waist. By modern estimates, that would make him anywhere from 12 to 15 feet tall. The giant, according to the chronicles, believed the men had descended from the sky. He pointed upward, muttering reverently, as if Magellan himself were some divine being. Imagine the terror of those sailors. They had braved oceans, storms, and mutiny, only to arrive in a land where men of impossible size roamed freely. Magellan's crew named these people the Patagonians, or Patagonians. The word itself comes from Patagon, inspired by a monstrous giant from a popular Spanish novel of the era. In other words, the explorers didn't just see tall men. They believed they had discovered the very race of giants that European folklore had whispered about for centuries. And the Patagonians weren't alone. Later accounts described entire tribes of these giants, men and women, both of extraordinary height, double, sometimes triple, the stature of an average European sailor. Skeptics might dismiss Magellan's journals as exaggeration, tall tales to impress kings and queens back home. But here's where the story refuses to die. Other explorers confirmed it. Decades later, Sir Francis Drake, the legendary English privateer, sailed those same coasts. His crew, too, recorded encounters with very tall people of Patagonia. They estimated the giants at 7.5 feet tall, not quite the monstrous 15 feet Magellan described, but still towering above any European of the era. And the accounts didn't stop there. Spanish, Portuguese, and English expeditions across the 16th and 17th centuries all repeated the same story. Patagonia was a land of giants. So many voices, so many journals. Were they all lying? Or was there truly a race of people so tall, so massive, that they became the stuff of legend? Modern science has tried to rationalize the reports. Some historians claim that the sailors, malnourished and desperate, simply exaggerated what they saw. A man of 6.5 or 7 feet would appear monstrous to a starving sailor, barely 5 feet tall. But here's the problem. The journals didn't just mention a little taller. They described colossal men. They described giants, and there's photographic evidence. In the late 19th century, a photograph surfaced of a Patagonian tribesman standing nearly 7.5 feet tall. Real, documented, not myth. If such height was possible in the 19th century, why not in the 16th? Why couldn't Magellan have stumbled upon an even taller lineage, now vanished race of titans that once ruled the southernmost tip of the Americas? One of the most chilling parts of the tale comes not from the encounter, but from what happened next. Magellan, fascinated and perhaps fearful, ordered his men to capture 2 of the giants. Using cunning trickery, they lured them aboard and attempted to restrain them. But these were not ordinary men. Their strength was immense. Restraining them required heavy iron shackles, the kind used for mutineers or dangerous criminals. Only one survived the voyage. The journals claim that one of the giants was intended as a living curiosity to be presented to the King of Spain, but he died at sea before he could be displayed. And with his death, the last physical evidence of Magellan's giants was lost to the deep. All that remains are the words, the detailed logs, the corroborating accounts, and the legends that continue to whisper across Patagonia. So what happened to these giants? Some believe they were a unique tribe of unusually tall humans, perhaps afflicted by gigantism, a condition caused by excess growth hormone. But if so, how could an entire tribe share the same condition? Others claim the Patagonian giants were remnants of an ancient race, descendants of the Nephilim, the giant offspring described in biblical texts. Some even whisper of alien intervention, suggesting that the Patagonians were hybrids, their unusual size a genetic echo of something not entirely human. And yet, just like Sardinia's missing skeletons, every time evidence of these giants seems within reach, it slips away. Reports vanish, bones disappear. What remains are fragments, photographs, testimonies, journals, never enough to prove, but always enough to intrigue. Even today, Patagonia holds its secrets close, remote, rugged, windswept. It's a land where myths linger like shadows. Among its mountains and desolate plains, whispers of giants still echo in local legends. The indigenous people once spoke of enormous ancestors who ruled the land before fading into extinction. Is it possible that Magellan's men stumbled upon the last remnants of this lost race? That their journals were not fantasy, but eyewitness accounts of a truth stranger than fiction? Magellan's giants leave us with more questions than answers. Were they exaggerated men, misremembered in the chaos of exploration? Or were they the final proof of a world where giants truly walked among us? But Patagonia is not the only place where bones and legends intertwine. Across Europe, in sacred caves and forgotten tombs, skeletons of extraordinary size have been unearthed only to vanish under mysterious circumstances. Could it be that Magellan's giants were not an isolated phenomenon, but part of a global paterna, hidden chapter of human history that someone or something doesn't want us to uncover? The faces, however, were the most haunting. Their eyes were carved as perfect concentric circles, hollow and staring, giving them an otherworldly, almost alien appearance. It was as if they were looking, not just at the people of their time, but at us across thousands of years. These figures are now known as the Giants of Monte Prama, and with their discovery, Sardinia earned its chilling nickname, the Land of Giants. But who carved these giants, and why? Archaeologists believe they were created by the Nuragic civilization, a mysterious culture that thrived in Sardinia during the Bronze and Iron Ages. Around 3,000 years ago, the Nuragic people built monumental stone towers called nuraghi, thousands of which still scatter the island. Yet, strangely, they left behind no written language. The Giants of Monte Prama may have been their message guardians, carved from stone to protect the tombs of Sardinia's elite. For these statues were not found standing freely in the open. They were discovered, shattered, buried near Iron Age graves. Imagine walking among them in their prime, an open-air necropolis, lined with towering stone soldiers, each one glaring down with unblinking circular eyes, standing watch over the dead. For the people of Sardinia, these giants weren't just statues, they were protectors, sentinels, symbols of power and eternity. But their watch didn't last forever. After only a few centuries, invaders swept across Sardinia. These conquerors smashed the giants to pieces, toppling the stone army, until all that remained was rubble buried beneath the soil. For nearly 3 millennia, they slept, until a farmer's plow woke them. The Giants of Monte Prama are not the only reason Sardinia carries its legendary title. Across the island, archaeologists have identified enormous burial chambers known locally as the tombs of the giants Tombe dei Giganti. These structures are massive. Some are 100 feet long, 8 feet tall. They were built with colossal slabs of stone, aligned like ribs rising from the earth, enclosing chambers big enough to rival cathedrals of the dead. Mainstream archaeology insists these tombs were communal graves, resting places for dozens of bodies at once. But local legends tell a different story. They whisper that these tombs were not for many small men, but for a few enormous ones, They were the beds of giants. And here's where the mystery deepens. For decades, Sardinian locals have claimed to see and even touch giant skeletons unearthed from these tombs and nearby caves. Skeletons not 6 or 7 feet tall, but 12, 13 feet in length. One of the most famous testimonies came from Luigi Muscus, a painter and sculptor. He recalled that, as a child, in the early 1970s, he personally saw a skeleton measuring 13 feet uncovered inside a cave. He wasn't alone, other villagers reported the same. But then, something strange happened. Whenever these giant bones were reported, they would mysteriously vanish overnight. Authorities, researchers, or unknown collectors would arrive, remove the remains, and leave nothing behind but disturbed soil. It happened again and again, until the people of Sardinia began to suspect that someone, somewhere, was deliberately hiding the truth. Were these bones destroyed, confiscated, locked away in museum basements? No one knows, but the pattern was undeniable. Giant bones appeared, were witnessed, and then erased. The question, then, lingers. Were Sardinia's legends born from pure imagination, or from faint memories of a time when truly gigantic beings walked the earth? On one hand, skeptics argue the giants of Monte Prama are simply oversized statues or exaggerations created by an ambitious ancient culture. The tombs, they say, were communal graves, nothing more, and the so-called giant skeletons, misidentified, exaggerated, or fabricated. But on the other hand, why do the stories keep returning? Why do locals, ordinary farmers, shepherds, artists insist they saw bones far beyond human size? And why, each time, did those bones disappear before proper study could be made? Even today, whispers persist that secret collections of giant skeletons exist hidden away by governments, institutions, or private collectors who fear what their revelation might mean for our understanding of history. Adding another layer of intrigue are the statues' strange faces, those perfectly carved concentric circles for eyes. Some researchers believe they may symbolize a spiritual or symbolic vision. Others suggest they represent something far stranger, alien influence. To believers in the ancient astronaut theory, the giants of Monte Prama aren't just works of art, they are echoes of a time when otherworldly beings walked among men, inspiring the creation of stone guardians modeled after themselves. Their size, their precision, their alien-like features all become pieces in a puzzle that stretches far beyond Sardinia, connecting to stories of giants from South America to the Middle East. Walk through Sardinia today, and you will still feel their presence. The Nuraghi stand tall, defying time. The tombs of the giants remain silent, their vast chambers echoing with unanswered questions. And in museums, the reconstructed stone warriors of Monte Prama stand once again assembled from fragments, their circular eyes staring endlessly forward. Yet the truth is incomplete. For every giant statue we can see, there are whispers of skeletons we cannot. For every tomb we measure, there are legends that defy those measurements. The land itself seems to guard its secret, half revealed, half concealed. A secret that tempts us with one chilling possibility, that giants were not just myth, they were memory. And so Sardinia keeps its secret. Shattered statues that hint at a forgotten race. Tombs so vast they defy explanation. bones that appear and vanish like ghosts. Is this the land of giants, or simply the land of unsolved mysteries? One thing is certain: the giants of Monte Prama still stand, staring at us with their perfect alien eyes, daring us to uncover the truth. Across continents, across centuries, one mystery refuses to die. Legends of giants don't just come from explorers, journals, or mythic poetry. They come from the ground itself, from bones, from skeletons, from silent remains unearthed in the most unlikely of places. But every time one of these discoveries makes headlines, the story ends the same way: silence. Skeletons vanish, reports are suppressed, and the evidence is locked, a war destroyed. So, are these just coincidences? Or is there a hidden effort to erase giants from human history? The first reports stretch back hundreds of years. Farmers plowing their fields, quarry workers digging stone, archaeologists uncovering tombs. Again and again, the same story: skeletons of men far larger than any modern human. In France, in the 15th century, workers uncovered the tomb of a giant said to stand over 25 feet tall. Chroniclers described enormous teeth, skulls the size of helmets, and bones so heavy that entire teams struggled to move them. In Ireland, local folklore spoke of the Fomorians, an ancient race of giants, said to have ruled the island, and in the 19th century, newspapers reported the discovery of massive bones in Irish bogs femurs, nearly twice the length of a normal man's, in North America. Settlers in the 1800s uncovered enormous burial mounds filled with skeletons measuring 8, 9, even 10 feet in length. Native American legends had long spoken of these beings, giant tribes that waged war with their ancestors. But whenever the bones surfaced, they were swiftly confiscated by authorities. Most were reportedly handed over to the Smithsonian Institution. And here's where the trail goes cold. Because once these bones reached the Smithsonian, they disappeared. This has fueled one of the greatest conspiracies in archaeology, that the Smithsonian deliberately destroyed evidence of giants. In 2014, a lawsuit was filed against the Smithsonian, accusing the institution of covering up the existence of giant skeletons in the 19th century. According to whistleblowers, thousands of bones were secretly dumped into the ocean. The Smithsonian, of course, denied the claims. They dismissed the reports as hoaxes, exaggerations, and misunderstandings. But for many, the pattern was too clear. Whenever giant bones are discovered, they vanish. Whenever proof is close at hand, it slips away. Is this just bad record keeping? Or is someone intentionally hiding a forgotten chapter of human history? The idea of giants isn't new. It's not fringe. It's woven into some of the world's oldest and most sacred texts. In the Bible, the book of Genesis speaks of the Nephilim giants, born from the union of fallen angels and human women. They were described as mighty men of renown, towering figures that once ruled the earth. In the story of David and Goliath, the Philistine warrior stood at least 9 feet tall, not just a metaphorical gianta, literal one. Even the apocryphal book of Enoch, once revered but later banned from biblical canon, describes an entire race of giants. According to Enoch, they grew so large, so violent, that they consumed everything, in humans themselves. Their destruction, it claims, was one of the reasons for the Great Flood. If the Bible, the Torah, and ancient Mesopotamian myths all point to the same conclusion, that giants once walked the earth. Shouldn't we at least consider that these legends are echoes of something real? The reports are everywhere. In Ecuador, Father Carlos Crespi was gifted mysterious artifacts by indigenous tribes in the early 20th century. Among them, he claimed, were bones of enormous men remains that defied explanation. Much of his collection mysteriously vanished after his death. In Bulgaria, archaeologists unearthed what they described as giant skeletons while excavating an ancient city. Photographs of massive femurs circulated briefly, then disappeared. In Australia, Aboriginal legends speak of the Yowies, beings that predated modern humans. Some skeletal remains found in the 19th century suggested hominids far taller and more robust than anything known to science. And perhaps most famously, in Sardinia, the land of stone warriors and tombs of the giants, locals insist that giant skeletons were unearthed only to vanish overnight. Reports of military trucks, sealed crates, and hush-hush operations feed the suspicion that someone doesn't want the truth revealed. The strangest part isn't that giant skeletons are reported, it's that they're always lost. Think about it. We have dinosaur bones that are 65 million years old. We have fossils of fish from 500 million years ago. Yet giant human skeletons, supposedly only a few thousand years old, cannot be found. Why? Were they all hoaxes? Were they misidentified animal bones? Or were they destroyed deliberately to protect the conventional story of human history? Because if giants once lived among us, then everything we think we know about evolution, about civilization, about the very origins of humanity, changes overnight. Mainstream archaeologists argue that reports of giants are misinterpretations. A femur described as giant may belong to a tall, but not impossible, human 6'8", 7'2". Uncommon, yes. Impossible, no. Some claims may be fabrications, born in the age of sensationalist newspapers, competing for readers. But if that's true, why do the reports continue? Why do modern excavations occasionally hint at anomalies, bones larger than expected, skulls with unusual dimensions only for them to be brushed aside? And why do so many cultures, separated by oceans, all tell the same story, that once giants ruled the earth? The evidence isn't only in bones, it's in stone. Think of the great pyramids of Egypt. Think of the stone blocks of Baalbek in Lebanon, some weighing over 1,000 tons. Think of Stonehenge, or the colossal statues of Easter Island. Even with modern cranes, moving some of these stones would be an engineering nightmare. Yet ancient civilizations, we are told, moved them with ropes, logs, and manpower. Or was it something else? Could these structures have been the handiwork of giants? Could their immense strength explain what seems impossible by human means? Here is the chilling truth. Every time we get close, the trail ends. Skeletons vanish, artifacts disappear, reports are discredited. We are left with fragments, newspaper clippings, photographs, rumors, and local legends. Enough to provoke, never enough to prove. And maybe that's the point. Because if the existence of giants were confirmed, it wouldn't just be another discovery. It would rewrite history. It would challenge science, religion, and the very timeline of civilization. It would force us to ask, what else has been hidden from us? But the story doesn't end with bones, because scattered across the globe are megalithic monument structures so massive, so precise, that even today's engineers struggle to explain them. If giants truly existed, perhaps their greatest legacy isn't in bones or legends, but in the stones they left behind. Monuments built not just for the dead, but as a message to the future, a message waiting to be decoded. When bones vanish and myths fade, we're left with something far harder to erase. Stone, scattered across the world, are monuments so massive, so precise, that even in our age of machines, they provoke disbelief. Who built them? How were they built? And were they built by us at all? High in the Bekaa Valley of Lebanon lies Baalbek, one of the most mysterious sites on earth. Here, embedded in the foundations of a Roman temple, lie stones so massive they boggle the imagination. The Trilithon 3 blocks, each weighing over 800 tons. For scale, that's heavier than a fully loaded 747 airplane. And nearby, half buried in the quarry, lies an even greater enigma. The stone of the pregnant woman, single block weighing an estimated 1,200 tons. Modern engineers admit, moving these stones today with cranes and trucks would be a dangerous, borderline impossible task. And yet here they sit cut, transported, and perfectly aligned thousands of years ago. The Romans, some say yes, but records are vague, and Roman engineering, though advanced, never showcased feats on this scale. Others whisper a different answer. These stones were already ancient when Rome arrived, remnants of an earlier age, a forgotten civilization, perhaps even the work of giants. On the wind-swept plains of England stands Stonehenge. To tourists, it's a circle of stones. To scientists, it's a Neolithic calendar. But to those who study ancient mysteries, it's something much more. The stones themselves weigh up to 40 tons. Some were dragged over 150 miles from distant quarries. How? Why? Legends claim the stones were moved by Merlin the wizard. But what if the truth is stranger? Could Stonehenge have been a place of power, aligned with the stars, built not by druids with ropes, but by hands and minds far stronger, far older? Archaeologists struggle to explain not just the how, but the why. What compelled our ancestors to build such a colossal monument? And why does it echo the same mysteries we find across continents? In the Pacific Ocean, on the remote island of Rapa Nui, stand the Moai statues, nearly 1,000 towering figures, some weighing 80 tons each. Carved from volcanic stone, they gaze inland, as if guarding secrets buried beneath the soil. And secrets there are. When archaeologists finally dug below the statues' torsos, they discovered something shocking. Most of the Moai have entire bodies hidden underground, making them even larger than anyone imagined. The islanders say the statues represent their ancestors' giants who once walked among them. Could these carvings be more than symbolic? Could they be memories of real beings, immortalized in stone? And then, the pyramids, Egypt, Mexico, China, Bosnia, across continents, separated by oceans, ancient civilizations, all built the same structure. The pyramid, the Great Pyramid of Giza, remains the most famous. Built from more than 2 million limestone blocks, some weighing up to 80 tons, perfectly aligned with true north, encoded with the dimensions of the earth itself. Mainstream history tells us it was a tomb for Pharaoh Khufu, but no body was ever found, no hieroglyphs within, no clear evidence of burial at all. So what was it? A tomb, a power plant, a beacon, and most importantly, who had the knowledge to build it? Could humans, 4,500 years ago, have engineered something so precise that even today's architects marvel at it? Or was there help from an advanced race, or from beings much larger, stronger, and more capable than us? In Peru, near the ancient city of Cusco, lies Sacsayhuaman, a fortress of interlocking stones, so precise that even a razor blade cannot slip between them. Some stones stand over 20 feet tall and weigh over 100 tons. They aren't just stacked. They're cut with dozens of irregular angles, fitting together like a 3D jigsaw puzzle. No mortar, no binding agent, just perfection. Even with modern technology, replicating such precision would be a challenge. And yet, somehow, the Inca War, those before them, achieved it. The question echoes. How? What connects Baalbek Stonehenge, Easter Island, Egypt, Peru, and countless other megalithic sites? They all use stones, far larger than necessary. They all show astronomical alignments. They all appear to have been built with knowledge too advanced for their time. How is it possible that civilizations with no contact, separated by oceans, all followed the same blueprint? Did humans, scattered across the globe, all tap into the same knowledge at once? Or was there a single source, a lost civilization, or a race of giants who spread their secrets before vanishing? If giants once lived, their legacy wouldn't just be in bones. It would be in the monuments they left behind. Think about it. For beings twice our height and many times our strength, moving 100-ton stones would not be impossible. For a race with knowledge of the stars, aligning structures with solstices and equinoxes would not be chance, it would be intention, perhaps. These megaliths are not random ruins. Perhaps they are messages, stone records, proof that giants, or those who came before us, left behind a reminder of their existence. A message carved not in fragile bone, but in enduring stone. Mainstream historians insist humans built these structures with manpower, with primitive tools, with ingenuity, and yet no one has fully replicated them today. No one has shown how ancient builders achieved such feats. So we're left with two options. Our ancestors were far more advanced than we realize. They had help from someone or something else. But just like the missing skeletons, the megaliths carry a whisper of suppression. Excavations are rushed. Alternative theories are ridiculed. And anything that suggests giants or lost civilizations is dismissed as pseudoscience. Why the resistance? Why the fear of asking questions? Here's the final clue. These sites aren't isolated. They're connected. Draw a line across the globe, and you'll find many megalithic monuments align along the same ancient latitudes. The Great Pyramid, Easter Island, Nazca, Stonehenge. Coincidence? Or evidence of a global network of civilization that spanned continents, leaving behind monuments as signposts? Perhaps these weren't just tombs or temples. Perhaps they were part of something much bigger. A grid, a system of power, a forgotten technology we no longer understand. What do these monuments tell us? That ancient humans were brilliant. Certainly that they were determined. Absolutely. But they also tell us something more unsettling, that there may have been a force-weathered giants, gods, or a lost civilization guiding them, teaching them, helping them leave behind structures that would endure for thousands of years. Because when bones crumble, when legends fade, when history is rewritten, the stones remain, and they whisper the same truth. We were here, we existed, we built, and you have forgotten us. But if giants carved monuments across the earth, where did they go? Did they die out? Were they wiped out? Or are they still here, hidden in places we dare not look? Because the final chapter of this mystery isn't about bones or stones. It's about encounters, stories of modern giants, sightings that continue even today, and a chilling possibility. What if the giants never left? The legends of giants should have ended long ago. Their bones, if they ever existed, are gone. Their monuments, if they ever built them, lie, weathered in silence. And yet, the story doesn't stop, because across history, across continents, across even our own modern world, there are whispers, reports, eyewitness accounts, stories of giants that didn't vanish thousands of years ago, stories that suggest they might still be here. In 2002, during the height of the Afghanistan war, a squad of U.S. Special Forces was sent on a routine mission into the mountains of Kandahar. What they encountered there would become one of the most chilling stories in modern military history. As the soldiers patrolled a remote canyon, they stumbled upon a cave. Outside lay broken military equipment gear that didn't belong to them. Curious, they moved closer, and then, from the darkness, it emerged. A towering figure, over 12 feet tall, flaming red hair, skin pale and weathered, eyes burning with rage. The giant roared and charged, wielding a massive spear. The soldiers opened fire, pouring round after round into the figure. It took sustained gunfire from rifles and a grenade launcher before the creature finally fell. According to reports, the body was so massive it had to be airlifted by helicopter. And then, silence. The soldiers involved were sworn to secrecy. Officially, nothing happened. The Kandahar giant, as it's now called, doesn't exist. But the testimony of those who were there still circulates, fueling one of the most disturbing modern legends of giants. If true, it means the giants never died out. They've been here all along, hidden in caves, mountains, and forgotten places. The story of giants in caves is not unique to Afghanistan. In fact, it stretches back centuries. The Paiute people of Nevada tell the legend of the Sitaka race of red-haired giants who once terrorized their ancestors. According to the myth, the giants were fierce cannibals, living in caves and raiding villages for food. Eventually, the Paiute tribes united, trapping the giants in a cave. They piled brush at the entrance, set it on fire, and sealed the giants inside forever. For centuries, it was just a legend. But in the early 20th century, miners excavating Lovelock Cave in Nevada claimed to find enormous bones, strange artifacts, and sandals measuring over 15 inches long. The remains were supposedly sent to museums and then vanished. Official records only mention large skeletons. Was the Paiute legend true? Did giants once roam North America? And if so, why do the remains always seem to disappear? Throughout the 19th and early 20th centuries, American newspapers were filled with headlines about giant skeletons. 12-foot skeleton unearthed in Ohio. Giant bones found in Minnesota burial mound. Smithsonian collects enormous remains from West Virginia. From coast to coast, farmers, miners, and amateur archaeologists all reported the same thing: massive bones, far larger than those of any known human. Yet today, none of those skeletons can be found. Conspiracy theorists argue that the Smithsonian Institution and other authorities deliberately suppressed the evidence, fearing it would append history as we know it. The Smithsonian denies it. But the question remains, how can so many documented reports all across American vanished bones? The mystery of giants doesn't stop with bones. People claim to see them even now. In the Amazon rainforest, tribes still speak of giant beings that emerge at night, towering over the trees. In the Solomon Islands, locals tell of Guayave Massive, humanoids said to live in the mountains, sometimes glimpsed by villagers before vanishing into the jungle. In Patagonia, European explorers like Magellan and Drake wrote of meeting natives twice the height of ordinary men. Skeptics call it exaggeration. But why do so many explorers across centuries report the same thing? Are these just stories? Or do they point to a forgotten truth that giants still walk in the hidden corners of the earth? The most disturbing part of the giant mystery isn't just the legends, it's the cover-ups. From Lovelock Cave to Kandahar, from skeletons in America to bones in Sardinia, the pattern repeats: discovery, excitement, and then disappearance. Why? Some believe governments suppress giant evidence to maintain control over history. If giants existed, our textbooks would be wrong. Our understanding of human evolution would collapse. Others suggest something darker: that giants are not extinct relics, but a species still alive, dangerous, and monitored in secrecy. That their existence isn't denied for history's sake, but for national security. Could the Kandahar giant have been one of many? Could governments worldwide know the truth while the public is kept in the dark? In ancient texts, giants appear again and again. The Nephilim of the Bible, the Anakim of canon, the Titans of Greek mythology. What if these aren't myths, but records of real beings? What if the skeletons and sightings are proof that the ancient stories were telling the truth? Some researchers argue the giants were hybrids, part human, part something else. Fallen angels, gods, beings from beyond. If that's true, then their disappearance or survival has spiritual implications. Were they wiped out in floods and wars? Or did they retreat underground, waiting? Here's the chilling question: if giants never left, could they return in force? Some say they already are, that UFO sightings, abductions, and strange disappearances are tied not just to aliens, but to the reemergence of these ancient beings. Think about it. Civilizations worldwide remember a time when giants ruled the earth. Every culture, every continent carries the same story. And now, in remote mountains, jungles, and deserts, whispers suggest they may be stirring again. From Sardinia's stone warriors to America's lost skeletons, from megaliths too heavy to move to caves filled with legends, one truth emerges: the story of giants is not just ancient myth. It's a global puzzle, a suppressed history, a warning carved in stone. And maybe, just maybe, it's not over. Because when soldiers in Afghanistan claim to face giants in battle, when villagers in the Amazon whisper of towering beings. In the forest, when bones keep disappearing from museums, you have to ask yourself, what if the giants are real? What if they never died? And what if, one day soon, they come back? From Sardinia's shattered statues to Patagonia's lost race, two skeletons that vanish the moment they're found. Human history is littered with echoes of giants, some carved from stone, others buried in legend, and a few etched forever in the bones of science. But the question remains, were giants guardians of our past, or warnings for our future? That mystery, half myth, half truth, lingers in the dark. And here, on Untold Chronicles, we will keep digging, we will keep searching, we will keep uncovering the stories that others try to erase. Because the past is not dead, it's only sleeping, waiting for us to awaken it. And when it does, will we be ready?